为什么里奥哈人会用美国橡木桶来陈酿他们的葡萄酒？他们是怎么开始的？这个问题呢，纠缠了我好多年。去年我有幸被里奥哈葡萄协会邀请到当地学习，当时我在想，这是绝佳机会来破解这个难题。这个风景不咋地。你可能听说过，在19世纪，波尔多人把橡木桶的使用方式传授给了里奥哈人，但是可想而知，波尔多人大概率就是用本地的橡木制造的桶，所以呢，应该不是他们让西班牙人使用煤桶。因为提前到了，所以决定去跑个步。结果呢，不小心跑到艾布罗河旁边的，就是里奥哈最主要的河流艾布罗。真巧，不是故意的。这种动物呢，法语叫做 furet， 好像中文叫啥呢？也不知道，应该是这个吧。在这里，我想稍微穿插几个知识点。第一，法国橡木和美国橡木是不同的品种。在法国呢，最常见的橡树呢，一个是有柄橡树和无柄橡树。在美国呢，最常见的叫做百橡树。
Yes, the river is here.
我们现在到了哈罗，哈罗呢是从历史的角度呢，算是里奥哈的葡萄酒首都吧。有趣的一点是有3家非常有名的酒庄，一个是穆嘎，一个是里奥哈阿尔塔和一个 Lopez de Heredia， 就是维亚通多尼亚。3家酒庄呢都完全的挨在一起的。我后面呢就是那个大名鼎鼎的这个图多尼维亚通多尼亚的，但是这一边呢就是那个里奥哈阿尔塔，然后这一边呢就是穆嘎。法国橡木桶和美国橡木桶对葡萄酒的影响是很不一样的。第一呢，在香气方面，就是法国橡木桶往往香气会更加内敛一点，更细腻优雅，会带一些比较明显的面包、一些丁香、一些雪松的味道。而美国橡木桶往往给葡萄酒带来更加奔放、浓郁、甜美的香味，比如说椰蓉、奶油太妃糖，这些呢主要对应于一个叫做威士忌内酯的成分。在口感方面，法国橡木桶给葡萄酒赋予更加强的结构感。它的单宁虽然很细腻，但是呢口感非常的紧实。而美国橡木桶的单宁往往更加圆润柔和。How did the American oak start in Rioja?
I don't know it.
Yeah, I don't know. No, wait. So the first one that we are going to be tasting is a Predilecto.
I don't really know it. I could tell you the reason why today is so important. The first one is the price, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
The second one is that it's more porous, so you get a higher evolution in less time. And in Rioja, there are 15 wineries making the 60% of the wine. They want to sell the wine cheap and fast. That's the reason why we have some American.
There must be a starting point, a reason why it started. Who thought about it? No, who thought, okay, you know what? Don't use French oak, let's use American oak. Who thought about that?
I don't know. I will try to investigate it.
单宁的质感跟木材的纹理的粗细有一定的关系。法国的橡木呢， 生长的时间非常的缓慢，一般来说呢，需要200年才能砍来做橡木桶的，使得它的木纹比较细。而美国橡树的生长速度呢，快得多了，大概是需要70年的时间，使得它的这个木纹稍微粗一点。我们到了一家葡萄酒博物馆，看看能不能在这里找到一些线索。这家博物馆真的太好看了，我觉得是我见过最好看的葡萄酒博物馆，在 Briones 市的比旺库酒庄里面。周总，看到你的橡木桶了，放心，还在这里的。哇，没见过这么多的开瓶器。喜欢收藏开瓶器的朋友们，你们看，谁家里藏有很多开瓶器？弹幕上面写一下你们有多少个。哇，必须得找我们的中国特色开瓶器。好污的。哒哒哒哒，这是我们中国特色开瓶器的，那一般是黄色的比较多。You're kind of an historian of wine, and today I've been trying to find an answer to a question: is why and how did Rioja started to work with American oak?
The very main industry for barrels near Rioja were the port of Bilbao.
Yeah.
Because many food and many different things were transported in barrels as fish and so on. So there was a big industry for oak making for that purpose. They changed into only American oak. That's a good question. I cannot answer you easily.
另外一个很重要的差异呢，就是法国橡木桶比美国的更昂贵，不仅是因为生长速度慢，也是因为加工方式以及出彩率的差异。法国的橡木必须用劈裂的方式避免漏液，结果呢，出彩率才20%到25%左右。美国橡木倒是可以锯切，所以它的出彩率是法国的1倍左右，就是50%，而且干燥方式更快，结果成本就更低。如果在法国买一个法国橡木桶的话呢，可能现在需要800到1000欧元左右。那么美国的橡木桶可能会便宜1/3到1半左右。
So what is a goat skin? Is the whole skin, is the whole body of the goat. They turn the skin inside out, and the hair is inside. The hair from the goat, it was covered with a thick black resin to make it waterproof. And when it was dry, they used the funnel to fill it up. It was used to transport the wine from town to town in the old times.
我有点想吐了。
You can see the hair.
Oh my god, that's gross.
Where are you, buddy? Okay.
Okay, this way, this way, this way. They serve the wine directly from the goat skin to the glass. And then they reuse it many times.
Did it smell like goat?
No.
On the first vintage, yes. And then you've got second use and old goats. And you have the French goat and the American goat. It depends, it depends. 我们现在到了里奥哈阿拉维萨的拉瓜尔迪亚小镇。 哇，这也太美了吧！Do you know why did Rioja started to work with American oak?
I think just possibly because it's half the price. It's maybe just because it's cheaper.
But was it cheaper back in the days?
Was it cheaper back
Because
in the
back in the days,
probably not. No,
the shipping was,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's a good question. I mean, I actually don't know. It could be someone who pushed it. Yeah, like you say. It could be some historic region, maybe. I was thinking it might go back to Napoleon, but that was too long ago. I was thinking maybe the Spanish didn't like the French, but that's 100 years previous. So
yeah,
honestly don't know.
所以当时呢，到了这个时候呢，我已经绝望了，我觉得不会找到我想要的答案。谁知在最后一个晚上，就是遇到了一个先生，他给我一个让我非常满意的说法。
It was 1894, Cosme Palacio in La Guardia. It was founded in 1894. At the files of the company, at the papers of the company, they didn't have one drop of American oak. All the barrels, they were from French oak or Bosnia oak. So my theory, there is no clear answer, is why it arrives the American oak. My view is that because of the First World War, at one point, Spain continued working because Spain never get into the war, it was neutral. In France, the First World War was dramatic, worse than the Second World War.
Yes, it was, yeah.
I think that they get out of labor, out of men, it was dramatic, really much worse than the Second World War. So there was no sapling, we continue working, so at the same time the opportunity was to bring American oak. That's my theory. I think that the key point may be the First World War.
I think that you see,
we nailed it. We found it out.
Finally, last day, the last day. 那我觉得这个老先生的说法非常的有意思的，就是确实美国橡木桶会比法国橡木桶便宜，而且当时在20世纪的时候呢，西班牙的经济确实不如法国的，但是呢，在19世纪要从美国引进木材到欧洲，其实这个运输的成本估计呢也不见得会低多少，对吗？但是呢，在一战的时候，法国就严重缺劳动力，而西班牙人在继续酿酒的情况下，那么里奥哈人必须得找一些新的货源，然后就开始使用大规模的这个美国橡树来制造橡木桶，然后因为经济的原因，就是保持使用这个美国橡树，而且后面呢，现在呢的是我们已经习惯这个口味，所以呢，美国橡木桶成为里奥哈的代表性的一种工艺和一个风格，挺有意思的。好，希望你们喜欢这个视频。如果看到这里的话呢，记得点赞，然后关注。我现在呢得赶飞机，我马上就要飞去另外一个国家，明天再跟你们说。